What's up, fam? Big ups to the family today. Big ups to you. Thank you for joining me for another installment of TSC Unleashed. Big ups to the family. Thank y'all for y'all great support. Much love to all the family members on this edition of TSC Unleashed. Some good news to run over with your family members before we get our sports coma going a little later on after this broadcast is over with. So we're going to go in a line. We got TSC Unleashed and followed by the sports coma coming up. We're going to cover some sports news, some Saints news with the next show after this show is over with. And, of course, later on today, the Pelican post-game report as the Pelicans are kicking ass and ain't taking any names. So I'd like to thank all you guys. You are terrific. Thank y'all for all y'all great support. Much love to all y'all for being here for another installment of TSC Unleashed. We in the building. I'm Big Q chiming in the host. Much love to all the family members out there. I appreciate y'all being here, man, on this fantastic Hump Day edition. Hope you guys had a fantastic Wednesday as well. So in this episode, family, we'll be going over a couple of news notes and items. Number one, we'll cover the news dealing with Kobe Bryant. Of course, Kobe, the report came in from the NTSB, excuse me. We'll play a report on that. We'll get in there and cover some information about that. Latest news and notes and developments on that case is a year since Kobe's untimely demise, and several other really important and really good people on that plane as well. Him, his daughter, and his friends as well in a very terrible accident. Hard to believe it's been a year since that occurred. We'll give you a report on the latest after the investigation. And of course, also on today's TSC Unleashed, we'll give you some information about the NBA says that all teams will play national anthem after Mavericks stop playing it. So we'll go over an article and let Mark Cuban explain what's going on. But this is the latest stuff going on in the NBA right now. So without further ado, thank all you guys for chiming in on this installment of the show. Please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you're not a member of the Sports Coma, as this is our special off show called TSC Unleashed. So without further ado, we'll get into some of those particulars about dealing with Kobe Bryant. We'll start off with him, and that the NTSB pilot that's responsible for the crash that ultimately led to Kobe's untimely demise. That's being covered here as the NTSB says pilot and deadly crash that killed 9 aboard, including Kobe Bryant, his daughter, were disorientated. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this. We'll go over that and we'll get some facts going about this really tough thing. And Associated Press here dropped an article that helicopter pilot who crashed into the Southern California hillside last year, killing Kobe Bryant and several other passengers, went against his training and violated flight rules by flying into thick clouds, U.S. safety officials said. Now, Tuesday, during a hearing aimed at pinpointing exactly the cause of the crash, the pilot likely became so disorientated that he could not discern up from down, investigators for the NTSB concluded. The agency criticized Zobayan's decision to fly into the clouds, saying he violated federal standards that required him to be able to see where he was going before the helicopter crashed during a roughly 40-minute flight. Now, Zobayan was among the 9 other people killed, including Kobe, his daughter, and then, of course, the pilot went against the training and became spectacularly disorientated in thick clouds, a condition that can happen to pilots in low visibility when they cannot tell up from down or discern which way the aircraft is banking, board members said. Just before the January 26, 2020 crash, Zobayan told flight controllers he was climbing in the helicopter and had nearly broken through the clouds. But the NTSB investigators said that the Sikorsky S-76 helicopter was in fact banking and beginning to descend at an increasing magnitude. There were 184 aircraft crashes between 2010 and 2019 involving the a spatial disorientation, including 20 fatal helicopter crashes, said the NTSB. Now, the NTSB member, Mr. Graham, said the civilian ignored his training and added that as long as helicopter pilots continue flying into clouds without relying on instruments, which requires a high level of training, a certain percentage aren't going to come out alive. Now, quote, what part of the cloud when you're on the visual flight rules program do pilots do not understand? That's the question added by NTSB Vice Chairman Bruce Landsberg. The Tuesday's federal hearing focused on the long-awaited probable cause or causes of the tragedy that unleashed the worldwide grief, launched several lawsuits, and prompted state and federal legislation. Now, of course, we knew a lot of people died in that helicopter crash. Really, you know, this happened like maybe a day or so right around the time that everything started to happen, you know, with the C-19 stuff when it popped up on the scene. But I'm going to play a report as well for the family members on this episode so we can hear exactly what they were saying as well. So just give me a moment and we'll flash into that and we'll get that going. Because I think a lot of this, man, tied to the fact that, you know, when you focus on what you're doing as a pilot in these situations, you got to do what you're supposed to do the correct way. Now let's listen to what Kobe Bryant, what the investigators had to say per their words. Here we go.
Helicopter crashed into a mountain.
Today, federal officials saying the probable cause of that tragic crash, which killed 9 people, including NBA legend Kobe Bryant, was the pilot's decision to continue flying that day using visual flight rules in poor, foggy weather,
which resulted in the pilot's spatial disorientation and loss of control.
Investigators zeroing in on pilot Ara Zobayan, describing him as experienced and well-regarded, but finding he strayed from his training on that foggy day with that flight.
The pilot's decision to continue the flight into deteriorating weather conditions was likely influenced by his self-induced pressure to fulfill the client's travel needs.
Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, 2 basketball teammates and their family members, a coach and the pilot, all were killed when the helicopter flying from Orange County to Thousand Oaks slammed into the hillside near Calabasas. An official today calling it a crash rather than an accident.
An accident is something that is unforeseen, unpredictable, if you will. Unfortunately, this wasn't.
The NTSB also finding inadequate review of safety management procedures by the helicopter company, Island Express. They recommended passenger helicopters require safety management systems and flight recorders known as black boxes, with the loved ones of the crash victims in mind.
Our entire purpose for this investigation is to learn from this event so that we can keep others from going through what you have gone through.
The FAA right now does not require the safety management system, which assesses risk that the NTSB recommends for flights like in this crash. But in a statement, they told KTLA it's begun the rulemaking process to require it for on-demand and charter operators. The NTSB board finding such a system would have helped in this case. The board also recommended helicopter pilot training for changing weather conditions and studying simulator training for spatial disorientation.
And that's the report, the official report, as they closed the case on the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash that took his life and several other people, including his daughter. Very tragic situation. We did a live show on this almost a year ago, and it's been a year since one of the greats and many other really important people to many other people's family have transitioned. So much love and blessings upon the families of all those who were affected on that terrible plane crash. Now let's move to the next article of news as we keep it going. And this one is covering to the NBA. As NBA says that all teams will play national anthem in a Mavericks game as well. Now in this particular article, this is saying that this is occurring because NBA said Wednesday that all teams will be required to play the national anthem after Dallas Mavericks stopped playing the song before home games at the request of owner Mark Cuban. The NBA Chief Communications Officer Mike Bass said the league's franchises will be required to play quote, the Star Spangled Banner, end quote, as arenas open to fans. Most teams haven't allowed fans in their arenas this year because of the C virus. But, quote, with the NBA teams now in the process of welcoming fans back into their arenas, all teams will play the national anthem in keeping with longstanding league policy, Bass said in a statement Wednesday. In a statement to The Athletic, Cuban said that the Mavericks will resume playing the anthem Wednesday when they'll face Atlanta and when they face the Atlanta Hawks in the American Airlines Arena. Now, I'm not going to read Cuban's statement. I have a bit of interview queued up. Let's see what Mark Cuban had to say about this.
Into our community. I mean, that's something Sense stands for and is very insistent upon and has become a core part of who we are at the Dallas Mavericks. And in listening to the community, there were quite a few people that voiced their concerns or really their fears that the national anthem and did not fully represent them, that their voices were not being heard. And so we've had a lot of conversations about whether or not we should play the anthem. And so during the first preseason game, we decided to not play it and just see what the response was, knowing that we were going to have ongoing conversations about it. We didn't make any decision to never play the national anthem. That wasn't the case at all. We didn't cancel the national anthem. We still had our flag flying proud and up on the wall at the American Airlines Center, and everybody had the opportunity to address it and pray to it or salute to it or whatever their feelings are. And we, as the games went by, honestly, we kept on talking about what we were going to do at some point, but obviously it came to the head when it was reported that at one of our games that we hadn't played it. But, the bottom line is we had always discussed the fact that we probably would end up playing it at some point, probably when fans came back, but there was never any final decision that had made that we would not play the anthem.
And then what were the conversations you had over the past 24 hours since it came into the news that you guys had not been playing it, since someone noticed, frankly, and started asking about it? What was the back and forth between you and the league office?
None, really. I mean, I talked some to Adam and got his feedback and gave him my feedback that, we had people who were upset by it and were passionate in them being upset. And we had people that fully supported it. That, a lot of people said that they don't understand why, the anthem is played prior to a game. Others said, it shouldn't be played prior to the game. Others said it didn't represent them and they're concerned about being played and it made them uncomfortable. And we talked about all the different feedback that we had received.
And how did they come to the decision then that everybody would play the anthem, including the Mavericks? Did you have that conversation first before the press release went out, or did you learn from?
Basically, as I mentioned earlier, we had never decided that we weren't going to play the anthem when we had fans in. Mm-hmm. We had some fans in last game, but they were all healthcare workers and people we were honoring. They weren't our ticket holders or season ticket holders at all. So, we didn't know, that it would be brought to a head at this point. But it was an ongoing discussion in terms of when we would have our paying fans or season ticket holders back in the arena that we would address it then.
So was this?
That's Mark Cuban's breakdown on what happened with the flag. And of course, it created quite a trending frenzy because of it. And this is the news coming the day after Cuban revealed before the season he directed his team not to play the national anthem at home games. Cuban didn't elaborate on his decision, saying no one had noticed the team recently allowed people back into the arena. NBA spokesman told the Associated Press that all teams were permitted to run their pregame operations as they see fit. Cuban has been outspoken again, critic at NBA players and coaches who knelt during the anthem last July. So Cuban told ESPN he would hopefully join his players taking a knee during anthems. And Cuban also tweeted that the national anthem police in this country are out of control. If you want to complain to your boss and ask why they don't play a national anthem every day before you start work. So that's what his thought process. Of course, the NBA talked to him. He had to change of heart. And then ultimately it came back around and then around to what it is today. So with that being said, ultimately, it was just a situation where the NBA said, listen, we are not going to make any money with this situation. That's what a businessman, that's what they think about, right? It's all about the cake, right? But anyway, listen, family, I'd like to thank all of you guys for joining in for this episode of TSC Unleashed, Kobe Bryant's fatal helicopter crash update, and Mark Cuban on the flag situation that occurred today. So I'd like to thank all of the family members for chiming in on this episode of TSC Unleashed. Hit the like button, subscribe if you aren't a subscriber, and join the Unleashed family here on the PRO Media Network channel. Now, coming up next, family, we will have the Sports Coma, as we'll go over the latest Saints news of the day. We'll talk about the NFL and how they had one of the worst Super Bowls rating-wise in the last 50 years. And that's all because of you, and I'd like to give you a big thumbs up for that. So much love to you guys. Thank y'all for chiming in for another episode of TSC Unleashed, and I'll see you guys just in a little bit with the Sports Coma. So much love to you, and I'll see you in a little bit.